What's up, everybody? This is Ben Volin, NFL writer from the Boston Globe. It is Thursday, April 23rd, a little bit after lunchtime. So much going on in the Boston sports world that felt like we had to revive a little Boston Globe sports report. We'll do the podcast edition here today. And, of course, with all these things going on in Boston sports, who better to have on than Mr. Dan Shaughnessy, legendary Globe columnist. Dan, you were at Celtics game 1 and 2 this week. After all these years, what's it like going to a game? What do you think of covering a game still?
It's always good to be there. It's better to be there. I mean, it's nothing's the way it was, of course, but we're still our seats are still pretty sweet down there in the lower bowl, and you're backstage, see them coming on and off, and get guys if you have to. But it's all kind of group press conferences now. That's changed a lot. But the crowd's great down there. They're very Celtic centric. They're probably the most positive crowd in New England, I think. They support their team. So game 2, they were kind of sitting on their hands waiting for the surge that never came. So that was a weird thing. And the Celtics, as you know, missed 37 out of 50 threes in that game. That's leaving like 120 points on the board there. But the other team hit the shot. So good on the Sixers to stand up to them. And now we got a series. Game 3 Friday night. Who knows if Embiid comes back? That would really be a game changer for that series. But it's I think they're going to the NBA Finals. But game 2 was a little bit of a warning shot for them.
No question. There's so much I want to get to today. 3 main topics, Dan.
Yeah.
We've got to talk about the Mike Vrabel story, of course, which keeps blooming new branches every day. Celtics playoffs, and I want to talk Red Sox as well. But talking about covering a game, you've been doing this for so long. Now I think a lot of us, we do cover games from TV. It's only natural. Yeah. When you're at a game, when you're at game 2, do you feel like being there helps your column much?
There's good and bad things about it. I mean, sometimes you pick up more on TV. You're hearing more. You might miss something if you're there. As odd as that sounds, that they notice something that's happened on TV, whatever. I know sometimes you'll have your earphones in listening to the feed when we're at a Patriots game.
I watch the TV at the Patriots
I'm trying to
games.
talk to you, and you're like, oh, I can't talk to him because he's connected right now to the sound of the game. So it works both ways, but you get an overarching feel for what's going on in the crowd, the reactions, and you can take a look at the bench, see what's going on here and there. You might see some stuff away from the ball that's going on, and there's always an advantage to look at. TV's always on the ball, and you can see away from the ball when you're there.
I would say in arenas where it's like open air, like at NBA arena, you're just sitting in the crowd. Or a dome stadium, maybe where there's no windows, and you can hear the crowd and feel the crowd and hear the bench. I think then it's very worthwhile. What I get annoyed with is that so many of these NFL press boxes, you're behind the glass, and it's just antiseptic. You can't hear anything outside.
The other night, I mean, Tatum and Brown do a lot of bitching at the refs. I mean, they just do. And they were going to lose that game, but Tatum was really harping on this one guy to the end. And Mazzulla took him out of the game, I know, to save him from a technical or an ejection or any kind of problem with the next game. The game was, the ship had sailed, but clearly it was clear to me he was coming out because he was relentless on this guy, and the coach needed to make that stop. If you're on TV, you're probably not going to see that. So it's just, and like I said, we're situated pretty close, lower bowl, where they come on and off in the Celtic corner. And, it's always an advantage.
Yeah, that's great. All right, there's so much going on in Boston sports. It's like a smorgasbord right now. The craziest, we got Red Sox, Yankees wrapping up, Celtics in the playoffs, Bruins in the playoffs. Hello, the NFL draft is Thursday night through the weekend. But still, the biggest story in sports, maybe the biggest story in the country right now, is this story with Mike Vrabel and Dianna Russini. And it took on a new life overnight. I thought maybe it was going to be done on Tuesday when Vrabel finally addressed the media down in Foxborough, Dan. But it took on new life late overnight when around midnight, Wednesday into Thursday, ESPN reported, or Vrabel revealed to ESPN that he's going to counseling. He's going to be missing day 3 of the draft this weekend on Saturday. And my initial thought was, well, this is a football story now.
Yes.
It's now officially something that's crossed over. At first, I kind of thought it was just between Vrabel and his wife and his family and his employer. Well, now he's missing crucial football activities, so it's a football story now.
Absolutely. That was a game changer, that news from last night. I write the Sunday column every week, and I spent the morning just trying to figure out what to do about this and that because it's a seismic change in this story, in my view. Because up till now, it's been easy for those of us who would rather not get into the story for a lot of reasons, which is like, you know what, this is his personal life. It affected Dianna Russini professionally because it's ethics, it's the job, it's professional. In his case, yeah, there's always ethics to it, but really it was between him and Mrs. Vrabel for the most part. Now it's different because, as you just stated, now it's become a football story. It's affecting the coach of your team is not going to be there for day 3 of the draft when potentially 8 guys could be selected. And let's face it, those are like the high holidays of the NFL. So if for a head coach to not be there on draft day and to announce that 2 days before, tell the world, I just wonder if that's some sort of punishment from the Crafts or from Mrs. Vrabel, or he's being contrite and he wants to get it out there how serious he is. But generally, most of the reaction would be, why can't you start your counseling on Sunday? It's just an odd thing to call that much attention to it. And the Patriots, as we've talked about, are very rehearsed in crisis management. As I've said, they're the Nixon White House of sports. They've been that for a long time. They should know how to handle everything. This thing's really going sideways on them, not in a good way. And in the short time from the news break of last night, with ESPN breaking that story, we've had this new bomb from the New York Post. Would you care to share that one?
Like a half hour ago, the New York Post, page 6, comes out with more photos allegedly showing Dianna Russini and Mike Vrabel playing kissy face at a bar in New York City 6 years ago, obviously before this whole thing went down. I think those of us who've worked in NFL media have known that the two have had a relationship for a long time, and I think certainly these photos are coming out. How much more is going to come out now? You talked about the response. I think where they made a real error was being so defiant up front. Vrabel said it was a laughable for anyone to think that there was anything inappropriate between him and Dianna. And then Dianna and her even in her resignation, didn't really accept responsibility, but put the blame on the media frenzy when I think it's very reasonable for adults to conclude, maybe what was going on between the two. But, with Vrabel, it's now a football story. And as you said, there are so many questions now. Why is his counseling starting on a Saturday? Why is it so important that he has to miss day 3 but not miss day 1 and 2 of the draft? Why is he missing day 3? Couldn't his counseling have started on Sunday or next week? Is this something that he's going away for, or that he's staying at home? Is he going to be missing any other work activities? This now, I think, just opens up a whole can of worms about what is the impact on the football team going to be.
Yeah, I agree with that. And again, I think people that have to this point protected it as their it's Mike Vrabel's personal life. It's not his professional life. He needs to sort that out, and we'll give him some space to do that. That kind of went away last night, in my view, when he announces that he's going to miss day 3 of the draft. Now it's a football story. Your head coach is not there. So it's as if someone were ill or something and can't be available because of that. It becomes more of a story than it is just his personal crises, which we know is going on. And for Dianna Russini, not that anybody really, I suppose it's the sports fans don't care about her as much, but this is going to be real hard to come back from now, because she, even when she resigned, she still didn't give it any credibility. It was basically saying, again, there's nothing to see here. And for a reporter, that's going to be kind of tough.
And I think if you're Mike Vrabel, you're probably a little nervous. What does Dianna have to lose right now? Their stories have not been aligned. Yep. Mike Vrabel did contradict what Dianna said. Absolutely. It's a media friendly, and Mike Vrabel was very contrite and is now going to counseling, which leads everyone to believe that he was caught in an affair and he's, trying to fix things with his wife now at home. So I think if you're Vrabel, maybe you're worried about what else is going to come out. And this new page 6 story, who knows where those photos came from? I'm sure not Dianna, but if Dianna doesn't have reason to keep quiet anymore, this could get potentially pretty ugly for Vrabel. So I thought this was the end of it on Tuesday, and I still don't think that, the NFL has said they're not going to investigate. It's not a violation of their personal conduct policy. I think the Patriots, given their history with everything they've gone through, I don't think they want to fire Vrabel, and I don't think they necessarily have the moral leg to stand on to fire Vrabel. But it does seem like all bets are off, right? I don't know. It seems like there's still a lot to be said with this story, and it's not over yet.
Well, it's weird when you think back to the Celtics situation with Ime Udoka, 3 or 4 years ago, and it was so quick. It was like one day, it was a press conference, he's gone. Joe Mazzulla, who we had never heard of, he's your new head coach, and here's why: violation of in-house rules, etc. His situation excuse me, involved a young woman who worked for the Celtics, and I think that was kind of a difference maker with this situation. But boy, it was fast, and it was kind of a 1 or 2 day story, and life went on with the new coach. And this thing is not going in that direction. It's going sideways on the Patriots. And what you just said, Tuesday, it looked like maybe that'll be it. The weird bait and switch with the Patriots PR department, all that stuff. And then, okay, he's done it. And then Wednesday night, he throws more gas on the fire by saying, yeah, I won't be there on Saturday. Like, he didn't know that on Tuesday when he talked. I mean, that all changed from Tuesday to Wednesday. So
and if you're trying to bury it, why not wait till Friday to announce that Vrabel's not, so they in one hand, by releasing it at midnight, they're trying to bury the news. On the other hand, we have all day and we're talking about it now, as opposed to having it done on Friday or something.
Yeah, it's a frenzy now. New York Post is a dog with a bone, and like you said, new pictures coming out now. And I don't know whether that's a Boston, New York thing or what, but they are going hard at this thing, almost like there's Jet fans running the Post out there.
I think they've seen the web traffic this story has generated and realized that it's good for business for the New York Post. And yeah, a New York Post reporter reached out to me and asked me if I knew which town Vrabel lived in. So I think the New York Post is definitely going to be sinking its teeth into it. And like I said, is he going to be missing more mini camps? Is he going to be missing more activities in the spring? This is now a game changer because now it is a football story. And it's the first night of the draft tonight on Thursday. Is Mike Vrabel going to talk, or is he going to leave Elliot Wolf to handle these questions? I think that's going to be an important thing to watch.
Big bowl of awkward.
Yeah, no question. All right. So crazy stuff happening in Foxborough. And we didn't even get into the first round of the NFL draft, which is Thursday night. We'll see what the Patriots do at 31. And then obviously A.J. Brown as well. Let's shift gears now. Let's talk about the teams that are on the field. Let's talk about the NBA playoffs. Boston Celtics. I don't know about you. I'm a little surprised. They're going It's 1-1 now, going down to Philly. Tuesday night, there was so much going on. I had the quad box going on my TV, so I wasn't fully, engaged with the Celtics because I was kind of watching the Bruins and the Red Sox as well. But what happened in the fourth quarter with the Celtics? Why did that surge never come? How did the Sixers pull away there?
They kept making their shots. I mean, Edgecombe and Maxey really did, they were making fallaways, step backs, posting up guys. It was thorough, and they got a lot out of Drummond. They got a lot out of Paul George for the first time. So the Sixers did a good job. They looked so bad. They lost by 32 on Sunday. Never had a lead. It was a wire-to-wire win for the Celtics. You win by 32. And we're warning everybody, hey, 148-114, Celtics over Lakers, Game 1, 1985 Finals. They lose the thing in 6 games. So this can happen. So this is what did happen. The larger thing is they get to Philly for Game 3. Is Embiid going to come back? Or there's even a theory they'll hold him off until Sunday, it's Game 4. Because if they could steal Game 3, then all of a sudden they're in a position of power, bring the big guy back and squash the Celtics. But I still think the Celtics are the better team, will prevail. But the idea of a gentleman's sweep feels a little bit harder now. I mean, we're hoping they could just clean this up in 5, and it feels like now it could extend. And chances are it's going to be the Knicks in the next round. They've got their hands full. I mean, the whole East, Orlando beat Detroit in a game. The Knicks were lost to Atlanta in a game. So it's not as much of a cinch to look forward and advance the thing as we thought it was going to be.
One reason why you're the best, Dan, is because you watched that game the other day and you think immediately to the 1985 NBA. I mean, how many fans are thinking about that NBA Finals game? Not me. I'll tell you that much.
The old ones were.
That's why you're the best, man. Your institutional knowledge is incredible. What do you think of Jayson Tatum? What do you think of his conditioning and the way he's playing right now?
Excuse me. I like him. I think he looks really good to me. I wish they'd go to the basket when the threes aren't dropping for him. To me, when you have the better team and your shots aren't falling, go to the hole, because that's when you can exert your superiority, which they have. Don't just keep slinging them out there and hope they start going in. But it didn't happen. But to me, he was very close to a triple-double. He only had, I think, 9 assists, but he's been getting a lot of rebounds. He's having like bird-like lines, like 25, 11, 8, and he just looks better to me than he's looked at any point since he's come back from this. He's 10 months out of the surgery, been playing for 5 or 6 weeks. But I thought these 2 games were a good showing for him. And they tried to hunt him a little bit defensively in the first game. It didn't work. So he's not the problem thus far. I mean, they're getting everything they could hope for out of him.
No question. And his conditioning, I think, is vastly improved from when he first came back. The first couple weeks, of course, which is expected, but very impressive to see the levels that he's up to now, and you don't see the hands on the hips like you used to at first, and. I'm now to the point where I'm ready to say yes. This is incredibly impressive what he's doing. I thought at first it was a little PR-ish, a little too Nike-ish, to say. But now that we see what he's doing, yes, it is very impressive. You mentioned the 3-pointers, 13 for 50 from 3 the other day. Those nights are going to happen. I mean, we've all talked about it ad nauseum. Is there anything else left to say? We've all said it. Get to the hoop. Stop shooting so many threes. What else can we say at this point?
They're not going to change. And in Missoula after the game was very defiant as usual. We had good looks. Shots didn't fall. I don't know. If you're not getting second shots or offensive rebounds, are the looks that good? There's nobody down there to get the second shot. I don't know. And those things bounce far out when you're taking them from that far away. But they're stubborn if nothing else, and they're talented and stubborn. I don't expect we'll see a big change. Derek White's kind of got to play better, and that's I have never said those words because he's been the perfect player here the whole time. He had a shooting slump most of the season, really came out in that game. He was like 3 for 12 and kind of let him down when they were starting to come back a little bit. His rebounding and shot blocking and his defense doesn't really fall off. He's good that way, but it's unusual to see. It just looks shaky. Doesn't look good coming out of his hand, and I don't know whether it's a confidence thing or what's going on with that, but that's one where you could pick something up. And Patriot had a poor game too. It's a lot to ask him to be that guy every night, but that didn't help. And Brown and Tatum are still a little turnover susceptible. Not big though. They only had like 14. Sixers didn't turn it over at all. So I always want a good series. I like having them in Philly. The old school history and all that stuff. And Philly's a good basketball town. Be interesting if their crowd can get warmed up Friday night and get into it. Try and tease the Celtics a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Embiid playing might have a lot to do with that.
That would help them.
If they can bring him back, that might electrify the crowd. I keep reading, nothing to be worried about. Celtics are fine. Do you kind of agree with that?
I do think they'll have. If they lose that game Friday night, it's going to be a different narrative going into Sunday for sure, because you can't be going down 3-1 to these guys. But I go back, in 2008, they went 7 games against Cleveland in the first round. I think they went 7 with Atlanta. They had 2 7-game series before they got to Detroit and cleaned them up in 6. I mean, Detroit and L.A. were only 6-game series the last 2 rounds, but the first 2 were 7-game series of a team that won the championship with a really good team. So it happens in that league. We can't get too out of sorts, but last year we kept saying, oh, they'll be okay, and they weren't. They lost 20-point leads twice at home. All of a sudden they're losing in 6 in Madison Square Garden, and the season's over for a team that was predicted by everyone to get back to the finals. This team is more of a surprise, as we know, the gap year, bridge year, all that stuff, and overachieved. Stevens really reconstructed the roster in a good way, and now Tatum's come back to him. I still go out there and see this season. This season, in my view, Ben, is sort of a gift the way the Patriot season was a gift, where I know these guys didn't win 4 games last year, but they weren't supposed to do anything. They were looked at as maybe a play-in tournament team, 40 wins, 42 wins, and now they're pretty much favored to get to the finals. I mean, most people see them as the best team in the East. New York could have something to say about that. Folks in Cleveland think they do too, and obviously, Philly is getting warmed up for that now. And Detroit's still standing there. That's the likely conference final. But I look forward to it. It's a great spring.
Yeah, absolutely. And overachieving is kind of the theme of Boston sports for, maybe this school calendar year from September to now between the Patriots, the Bruins certainly overachieved, and I agree, the Celtics overachieved. Speaking of overachieving, I got kind of annoyed last week when I saw that Jaylen Brown wasn't even a finalist for MVP because I thought he had a phenomenal season, with no Jayson Tatum. I thought he proved a lot of doubters wrong by carrying this team. This was a team that was not expected to be, anything more than a 6 to an 8 seed in the East, and here they are, number 2 seed. His numbers were fantastic. He played like an alpha. But then I look at who the finalists are, Jokic and Wemby and Gilgeous-Alexander, and it's like, who do I take off that list?
Yeah, I think he's 4th. I think that's if there were 4 or 5 on that list, he'd be on the list. But to get 3, it was probably a big thing with, because the Joker, he didn't have that many games. He just got to 64, I think. SGA you knew was going to be in the mix, and Wemby came on so big at the end. I think that the 3rd spot is arguable. And that's one where Boston fans, I'm sure, are arguing your case.
Did Jaylen Brown mention it at all?
It's surprising because he gets sensitive about not getting Player of the Week and all these stupid things that nobody cares about. So I can't remember it in this case. So good for him.
Yeah.
I'd rather he didn't. I mean, let the fans be chanting MVP when he's up at the line.
Exactly. Let me complain about you not getting the MVP. All right. Good Celtics talk there, Dan. All right. Lastly, got to go to the baseball.
Does this mean we're not going to go to overachievers now in the third category of our segment here?
You mean the Bruins?
Well, we said overachievers: Patriots, Celtics, Bruins. Who's not overachieving?
Well, there's one team left. Yeah, the local 9.
Wow.
Not doing so hot these days. As we record this on Thursday afternoon, Red Sox are 9-15. They did avoid a second straight shutout last night. They scratched one across.
They bled that run across in the
ninth inning. Yeah. But, man, 2 really dismal performances against the Yankees. It's been cold weather. The bats are cold. Dan, what is up with this team? Is this a case of I told you so?
Well, it just looks like they don't have enough talent, and you're starting to hear that from Cora. Cora's pretty much been a company man since he got the money and stayed here, decided to do that. So he hasn't been pushing back too much on what am I supposed to do with this. But we're starting to see some of that. It's the roster. It's the roster we have. He'll say that when explaining some of the odd lineup substitutions, etc. One of my readers, Ben, suggested Mario Mendoza night at the ballpark and hand out Mendoza bobbleheads for all the honoring all the guys hitting under 200, which there were 5 last night in that final box. This late in the game, it's a lot to have 5 guys batting under 200. Durbin's down there. Story's been down there all year. It's just and poor Roman Anthony. They put too much on his shoulders. I think there's no doubt about it. And not having Bregman, I feel, is a factor for him. And maybe that gets overstated sometimes, the leadership and having a guy there to show him how it's done. But they moved Anthony to the locker next to Bregman last year. It was so impactful. He talked about it openly. And when he played in the WBC this year, he was great. Bregman's his teammate in WBC. Season starts, and he's been a 2-4. He's got 1 home run, and he's a .230 hitter. That team may end up with under 100 homers. I mean, the weather warms up, balls start to go out, but it's preposterous. They have 13 home runs in 25, 6, 7 games, whatever it is now. That's tough on the Red Sox. The third baseman has 0 homers. Poor guy's hitting a $130 or something like that. He's been squaring up some balls. He's only got 13 strikeouts compared to Trevor Story, the shortstop, who is north of 30, I believe, at this point. Easiest guy in the bigs to strike out. That's alarming. And it's hard to pump their tires at this point. I mean, you didn't expect Crochet to go bad. He's had 2, the worst outing of his career, followed by another one where he got the Tigers lit him up for 5, kind of got it going. He looked better in that game. He pitches Saturday in Baltimore and needs to show a good one because it's going to start to be, is he hurt? That's going to come out in a big way. And the one thing they've been able to have the last 2 years is every 5th day, they're pretty sure they're going to win that one. That's not there now. And then, of course, Sonny Gray goes on the DL. Not a surprise, 35-plus-year-old pitcher. That's going to happen. Suarez is a candidate for that. They all are when they get to that point. But, really, you can only point to like 2 or 3 guys that have done as well or better than expected. And it's a short list, and it's a tough product. It's a tough watch right now.
So much to unpack there, Dan. You always hit on so many different points. Roman Anthony, man, did I not expect this kind of start from him, especially after the World Baseball Classic. Yeah. I mean, he was one of the breakout stars of that. They sat him down yesterday in the game 2 against the Yankees. Just a clear head kind of day, you think?
They were saying his back was barking a little bit, but I think that it's hard to know. And Benny, this having the roster, I was in Cincinnati with them, and from the day one, we're asking this question about the Rubik's Cube of the 5 guys for 4 positions, because the DH is involved in this. But you've got 5 starting outfielders, and only 4 can play every day because of the DH being 1. And so someone's always sitting. You figured it'd be Yoshida most of the time. They should have traded him or dumped him, eat it. They won't eat it, and surprise, he's been one of their better guys. He's been batting a little cleanup. He's a better contact guy. But I'm sorry. What's happened is Anthony and Durant have been stripped of all their confidence, and it looks like, anyway, I can't get in their head. I mean, Durant's been hitting like $170. He got 3 hits last night. He's still under 200.
So I changed his stance. He doesn't do the high leg kick anymore.
He had IKF pinch hitting for him the other day. How do you be MVP of the All-Star game, and 2 years later that guy's pinch hitting for you coming out of the dugout? That's deflating. But not being out there or in there every day, I see it's affecting both of them. Anthony went a stretch of like 10 or 11 games where he was only in left field twice. They had told us They wanted Rafaela and Abreu out there every day. They're both Gold Glovers. They want Anthony out there every day, but then Duran's got to sit. Yoshida, they don't mind sitting, but they try to get him out there to keep him active. So it's a problem, and it's really affecting, in my view, Anthony and Duran.
So they need. I think it's clear they need a shakeup. They need to trade some excess outfield, and they just need a bat, no question. So, how rare or common is it to make a big trade this early in the season?
I don't think you're going to see it, and I'd be surprised. They're not going to take on payroll. You can be sure the FSG doesn't want to sink a lot of dough into a team that looks like this. That won't be a solution. And this is, they've been content to be a middle market team for like 7 years now. They're 12th in payroll. I mean, they're the Brewers, the Cardinals, the Reds, whoever you want to call it. That's who they are now. And that's how you have a third baseman named Caleb Durbin, who's, a middle market player. Red Sox are supposed to have Wade Boggs, Rafael Devers, Alex Bregman.
Manny Ramirez.
Yeah, and they got the poor Caleb Durbin, who's fielded his position okay and makes some contact, but he has 0 homers at third base for the Boston Red Sox, and he's hitting under 150. It's a tough, and he's pressing, poor guy. You feel bad for him. It's not his fault. He is what he is. But yeah, it's. I'll tell you, Ben. They've had so many changes in philosophy, since they dumped Lucchino in 2015. It's been a roller coaster of Ben Cherington, Dave Dombrowski, Chaim Bloom, and now Craig Breslow. Nobody's lasted into a 4th or 5th year, and it's a change of philosophy each time, it feels like. Although Breslow and Chaim are more closely aligned than certainly Dombrowski was, who was willing to spend, and that's the 2018 team, which was a monster team for them. Since 18, there's been a big pivot, and I just don't know about changing philosophy again. Now they're bringing in all the driveline guys and all the stat guys and discouraging Jim Rice from talking to their hitters because that's not what we teach here. What we teach is not changing your approach and striking out a lot. That looks like what we teach. So I don't know, man. It's not good, and they were hoping that they'd get a good start every day, and when they've gotten good starts, that's their 8 or 9 wins. Most of the time they haven't. Bayo's been a mess. Connolly Early has been a guy who has exceeded expectations. If they're all doing what he's doing, they'd be in great shape, but that's not happening.
So they sit here today on April 23rd. They're 9-15, bottom 5 record in the league, bottom 5 in runs.
Bottom 5 everything.
Historically, how easy or hard is it to dig out of that hole?
Well, the illusion of contention will carry them into the summer and fall. I don't think you can't play yourself out of it unless you're like the White Sox or the A's or one of those 120 lost teams. You're insulated against that now since 40% of the league makes the playoffs and you're 6 out of 15. You got to be. August, you're still like 3 games out of the second wild card in the loss column. They'll be able to play that card all year, in my view, unless this thing really goes into the dark side of the, like I said, aforementioned 100-loss A's, White Sox. There just isn't much talent there. They haven't had much luck. Guys are hurt. And I got to think morale's going to be hard to. I hear a lot of carping about Alex Cora, and I must be tricked. He's not the problem in my view. I think he's strategically pretty good. He's dealing with what he has, and what he has is not much so far. No,
but you got to think that if this continues, something's going to have to, whether it's Cora or the hitting coach, something's going to happen.
The coaches are always the easiest play there. You know that. You've been around a long time. So, yeah, fire the coaches, but the philosophy of the driveline thing, and that's going to be a tricky thing because they've committed to this. And it's just I did not think it would be this bad. I was down in Florida for a little bit, and I held back in my advance for the start of the season on page 1. I said, they could be really good, but – and then listing all the things that kind of have to go right, and none of them have.
You mentioned the St. Louis Cardinals before, and I wanted to ask you about that. When it comes to the other non-football sports, I'm a little like Encino Man. I kind of got frozen in like the mid-2000s and kind of stopped paying attention for about a decade. Now I've thawed out and I start paying attention. What happened to the St. Louis Cardinals fan base? When the Red Sox played there a few weeks ago, I was shocked at how half-empty the new Busch Stadium was.
That's fair. I mean, there is the weather, and the weather's bad, and
that is a baseball town.
It is a baseball town. And they don't have much star power on their roster. But, yeah, it's pretty much been a loyal face. But it's been several years. They've never been kind of out of it for a long stretch of time. They're kind of coming into that now. So we'll see where it goes. And Chaim Bloom's the one in charge of that. He's not as bad as everybody thinks. I mean, some of the good players the Red Sox have are Chaim Bloom guys, like Abreu, the right fielder, who's one of their best guys, Chaim Bloom guy. And Chaim Bloom gave you Contreras, who's also been good. So yeah, it's going to be tough for him to get that. It's a fair judgment about early in the season to see those kinds of crowds there. Sure.
Chaim Bloom wheeling and dealing on the Little League fields of Newton, Massachusetts. Apparently,
yeah, Chaim Bloom. It's like
watching your grandkids and my son play, and he's wheeling and dealing.
Well, here, I left my notebook behind one time. He called me. He says, "I got your notebook." I said, "Oh, wow, that's really good." I said, "I promise you, this isn't like George Costanza leaving his tape recorder in the room to try to find out what was going on." So anyway, thank you, Chaim.
Awesome. Red Sox have the Orioles coming up. Just any thoughts on what they have coming up here?
Well, all you can be sure is that Pete Alonso will hit a couple of monster home runs against them this weekend. It'll be like, just to cue up Bob LaBelle. Why can't we get players like that? You know that's coming. But no, that could be a chance for them to. I keep saying they can't be this bad, and I'm going to cling to that a little bit because, man, this has been bad.
Yeah, no question. Watch out in the splash zone there in left field at Camden Yards. They get the super soakers out now.
And that's right.
And they soak the fans for home runs. So Pete Alonso is going to be getting a lot of people splashed, I think. All right, that's all I got, Dan. We have so much going on in the sports world. What's your schedule like?
Well, it's a lot, and you were talking about how busy it is. Give me those numbers again with the Boston Globe's newspaper this week, like the money that was spent and the coverage that we had. So no one's doing that anymore, except maybe the New York Post.
The Wednesday morning, New York Post, good for them. The Wednesday morning Boston Globe print edition had I called it a tomahawk ribeye of a newspaper. It had 16 staffed articles, 16 bylines by 13 different staff writers. So, as you said, just like columns on the inside throughout the paper. We had Bruins playoffs, Celtics playoffs. We had an NFL mock draft on the inside, the Vrabel news. It was the meatiest Wednesday newspaper in history.
I'm patting ourselves on the back, and I know people are listening. Hopefully they're Globe loyalists, but no paper in America is doing that anymore. That kind of saturation coverage, original content coming out of a weekday newspaper. Very hard to do.
Shout out to the copy desk, John Kuchar and Bob Fettis and all the guys on the copy desk. Not easy. This is their Super Bowl with all the teams in the playoffs and all the deadline games coming in. Got more of it tonight. Tonight is Bruins and Red Sox. Celtics on Friday. I mean, it's just never ending. So props to the copy desk. But yeah, what press boxes are you going to be in the next week?
I will be. I'll be with the Celtics when they come back home on Tuesday next week, and then hopefully staying with them. Tara Sullivan does more Bruins. I do more of the Celtics in these early rounds.
If the Bees advance, so I figure.
Oh, yeah. They get there. I'm there. I was in St. Louis. They almost won it in 2019.
Boston Bruins, man, if not for a poor stretch of about 7 minutes in Game 1, they'd be 2-0 coming home.
Crazy.
Looks like the Sabres are changing their goalie for Game 3 coming up tonight. So
that was a big bounce-back game. To the disheartening loss they had, 2-0 lead with 8 minutes to go in Game 1 on the road, and you've silenced their building, and then you lose that game in epic fashion, 4 straight goals allowed. And then to come back and beat them in their own building the next time, have a 4-0 lead in the next game, that's showing you something. So, yeah, there's hope for them.
I love that this is Buffalo's first playoff trip in 15 years.
Correct.
And after being tormented by Tom Brady for nearly 20 years, the first team back is the Bruins now. So the Bruins get to crush these fans. And, you saw Josh Allen banging the drum the Patriots, if the Bruins wanted to get in their head, they should have Tom Brady come out and drop the first puck or something just to get in these Bills fans' heads,
Absolutely.
So got to love the Boston-Buffalo rivalry. All right, Dan Shaughnessy, I could do this all day, man. I love doing these conversations. I'm Ben Volin. This has been a podcast edition of the Boston Globe Sports Report. We'll catch you guys next time.